week, we're going to be playing Fortnite while we talk about some NFL games. I am using the Carbon Gaming Sportsbook. Before we get started, this presentation is for entertainment purposes only. Not only should you not follow these suggestions, but you should not bet any real money. I, in fact, discourage you from any sort of gambling activity, both legal and illegal. Also, I can make no guarantee that any of this information or all this information presented is entirely accurate. I am not responsible for how you use this information. Alright, got that out of the way. Now on to the fun part. We'll be starting with number 5 in the pipe. 5x5 this week. We'll go over 5 games real quick. Let's see, first we got Tennessee at Cincinnati. We're going to take Tennessee -7 here. Obviously they're favored by a touchdown. And I still do think Joe Burrow's first win is out there on with Cincinnati being -330. This might be a tempting place to try to take it. But I don't think you should, because Cincinnati is complete garbage, and none of that team gives a shit except for Joe Burrow. So, would not take Cincinnati this week. Even though Tennessee has been pretty bad at covering, I still think they'll get it done by a touchdown. So, go ahead and take Tennessee -7 here. Next game is Las Vegas at Cleveland. We're going to go ahead and take the money line on this one with Las Vegas, actually. They are getting 2.5 points. They're on the road at Cleveland, so obviously we're looking at that 3-point differential there. But really, Las Vegas isn't as far from Cincinnati as you might think. And really, the biggest home advantage that teams are getting this year is if a team has to travel far. Actually, what we're seeing during these uncertain times is that the biggest factor in not playing at home is not necessarily the crowd as much as is the travel. Having said all that, nothing disappoints like Cleveland with a little bit of expectations, and since they played so well last week, and even with Odell Beckham getting injured and he's out for the year, people are kind of getting back on that Cleveland train. This is always a mistake. Never love Cleveland. Cleveland with any sort of expectations is going to break your heart on a good day. So, we'll go ahead and take Las Vegas, but just straight up. Next up, we've got the Rams playing at Miami. Rams are a 3.5 point favorite here. Obviously, this is a very exciting game because we've got the debut of Tua Tagovailoa. Having said that, dude's going to get crushed by Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is going to break him in half, if he's lucky. The best that Miami can hope for is keeping Tua somewhat upright, keeping Aaron Donald away from him, and just throwing short passes. I mean, this isn't a contest. People are actually sort of oversold on the Dolphins right now after they blew out, that really random blowout win against San Francisco. And just people are excited about Tua. They're excited about the Dolphins because they've been so bad for a long time. But the fact of the matter is, Dolphins are not actually that good. Rams are also, on the flip side, Rams are a team that a lot of folks are sleeping on. They have a really good point differential, and they have a really good, they're good on both sides of the ball. They're one of the best, most well-rounded teams in the NFL, and Miami is not actually that good. So we're going to go ahead and take the Rams to cover here. I mean, it would be possible to take the Rams at -175 here, the money line, but I think it's probably better to just go ahead and take the points. Miami could put up a little bit of a game against them. So, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, we covered all the points I wanted to cover on that game. Alright, next game up is New Orleans at Chicago. Got New Orleans money line -210 here. I do get a little worried about this game with New Orleans covering. You got Drew Brees, cold weather, out in the snow. You've got a really good Chicago defense, but what's still making me pick New Orleans here, even if I'm not taking them against the spread, which is -4.5, is that, like I said, those factors, and Drew Brees in the cold is a little nervous. Having said that, Chicago's offense is a dumpster fire, so I do feel pretty confident that all Drew Brees has to do is get a few more touchdowns, and he should be able to take care of business, even in a cold, windy Chicago. Because what? They'd only have to score... Uh-oh, got a guy coming. They'd really only have to... Damn, headshot. They really only have to score like 3 touchdowns in order to beat this Chicago team, who are not very good. Again, a team who is not what their record says they are. You know, even at 5-2 and being one of the top teams in the NFC, I wouldn't trust this team as far as I can throw them. So yeah, definitely take New Orleans here, but again, I'd take New Orleans money line. I would not bet against the spread on this one. And our 5th game of the 5x5 is Tampa Bay at the Giants. This is an easy one. We're going to go ahead and take Tampa Bay minus 12.5. Tampa might be, and this pains all of us who are not New England or Tampa Bay fans to say, is Tampa Bay might be the best team in the NFL. I mean, obviously getting Antonio Brown could prove huge, but nobody's going to put a lot of stock in that. Honestly, it could be the only thing that could derail this team. When you look at the skill positions and the defense, which is killer, the only thing that can get in the way of Tampa Bay are obviously, the Coco. We're not gonna, every team is in danger of catching the Coco, but also just them hurting themselves. Having said that, the Giants have been scrappy, and we know this, and they've actually looked. They've been in most of the games that they've played this season. But I mean, even scrappiness is not enough to me or even the plus 500 that the Giants are getting this week. That's not enough for me to put any sort of money on them. I don't even really like them to cover here. So yeah, we'll go ahead and take Tampa even the minus 12.5, which is obviously a huge line, but I mean, come on. I'm always going to take TB12 to get 2 big old TDs to take the game. All right, that wraps up the 5x5. Next, we got 4 of the dogs. We're going to pick 4 dogs this week. So the first one is New England at Buffalo. New England is a 4-point dog, but I mean, come the fuck on. Like, here's the thing. It's like, I get they've looked bad. I get that Cam Newton's going to be starting, and full disclosure, I am saying all this whilst wearing Cam Newton jersey. It's Panthers jersey, but still. Having said all that, Bill Belichick is going to be hot pissed. This is a division game. If they can stay close in the division, then they've still got as good a chance as any. I mean, if you're New England, one of the things they talk about New England is that New England over the years has just been able to play with house money, and they've been able to put so many eggs in the basket of not even worrying about getting in the playoffs, just being in the playoffs. Because they know they're going to get to the playoffs. And so once you already know that you're going to get in the playoffs, you can structure your season a lot differently than a lot of other teams get the chance to. Having said that, this season, they might not have that luxury. But if they can get this big division win against Buffalo, who has not looked like they had the first 3 weeks of the season. I mean, this team looked like an absolute fucking juggernaut first 3 weeks of the season, and they have massively come back down to earth. So even at home, and again, we're doing that thing where, it's not going to be a lot of, New England, Buffalo, not a lot of travel. They're not going to have to go very far. Hopefully, you get one more week of Cam Newton away from his Coco diagnosis and subsequent recovery. You've got Belichick, who is dealing with a known opponent, a divisional opponent, with a lot riding on it. I kind of like New England this week. Not that I like New England any week. I hate New England every week. But as far as if we're going to bet on a dog here, go ahead and take New England plus 4. Next up, we've got Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Pittsburgh's getting 4 points at Baltimore. Now, and they're the only undefeated team in the NFL. And for good reason. Their defense is awesome. Ben is getting the ball out insanely quick. Like super quick. Quicker than any other quarterback. Granted, he's not tossing it down the field, but his skill position guys are all good. I mean, Juju isn't even the guy there anymore, and Juju Smith-Schuster is kind of fucking awesome. So, it's very easy to look at this game and sort of, at a glance, Pittsburgh plus 4 is almost a no-brainer. Having said that, you don't really want to, Lamar Jackson is good. And it's going to be an interesting way that these two teams line up with each other, because you've got the Pittsburgh front seven who are awesome, but they're trying to contain the smoke show that is Lamar Jackson. On the other side, you've got Ben Roethlisberger, the cagey veteran, but he's going up against that stellar Ravens secondary. So it's quite the game of cat and mouse they're going to have down there. But again, you got a team that's not traveling super far against a team that is good. And granted, Baltimore's great. They're still really good. They're not quite the team they were last year, and there is a little bit of regression, especially in the passing game from Lamar Jackson. Now, he is due for a little bit of pick-me-up on this one, but I think this is a place where you can go ahead and take the road dog in Pittsburgh at +4. I mean, again, this is actually, I do almost like this game for a cover out of Pittsburgh without an outright win. So we'll go ahead and take the points and see what Pittsburgh can do with it. Next up, we got San Francisco at Seattle. San Francisco is a 3-point dog on the road. I don't love this, actually, but there's a couple reasons why you can see why you can make some money here. San Francisco's offense is killer. And it's not that they got good personnel. I mean, they have okay personnel. It's that Kyle Shanahan is a goddamn wizard. So, in a year where Seattle's defense is hardly the Legion of Boom, you can see a lot of opportunity there for Kyle Shanahan to scheme up some really interesting ways for them to really make that not-so-great defense pay. On the other side, you've got San Francisco's defense, which was world-class last year, struggling this year, but really certain to come back into form. You see this against, you saw this against New England. You've seen this against some other teams. They're starting to come back, and it's also one of those things that once you've had so many injuries, eventually, if you've still got some good guys, you get a couple weeks in there, you can start readjusting and figuring out what kind of defenses you actually need to call with the guys you have, as opposed to being stuck in that mindset of, oh my god, we don't have the guys we had, but we're still going to be calling the same plays. So even though I don't love this pick, but I think this is a place where you could take San Francisco to at least cover the 3 points. I wouldn't necessarily take them to outright win, but especially when you're talking about a division game, again, this is a West Coast to West Coast travel. Shouldn't be necessarily that far of a stretch to see San Francisco cover here, even though this is the least of the for the dogs pick that I'm comfortable with this week. And last but not least, you're gonna, well, I said I didn't like the last one. You're gonna hate this one even more. Got the Jets at KC +20. The thing is, when you look at it, it's really hard to look at 20 points and not just salivate. Problem is that the Jets, so bad, like just so incredibly bad. I mean, it's the only time that you can almost see that. I mean, it's still not a fair comparison, and it's still not. I mean, they'll still beat Clemson if they got to play Clemson, but it's the only time it's ever been even relatively close when you could possibly consider that, hey, oh look, the Clemson and this team lose Clemson. I mean, they wouldn't, but they'd probably not look that good. I mean, let's be real. You could set that line at, Jets +7 against Clemson, and people would be taking Clemson. So really, 20 points. I mean, they could score they could score 3 field goals, and then just let Kansas City score 4 touchdowns, and they still cover here. So this is all about the points. This is not about the fact that the Jets are, by a wide margin, the worst team in the league, and Kansas City, by a decreasingly large margin, but still kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the NFL. But 20 points is 20 points. So we'll go ahead and throw this in as our for the dogs 4th pick of the week. Alright. Let's see. Running around the island, doing some stuff. Haven't seen anybody yet. Alright. Next segment is my favorite and your favorite part, the 3-team 2 easy parlay. It's the one where you have to you just set it, forget it, you don't even have to think about it. What we're going to do is we're going to take the over-unders for every team. We're just going to, very simply, we're going to take the under on the biggest line, we're going to take the over on the smallest line, and then we're going to pick a third game. That's usually the part where you have to do a little bit of pondering, but ultimately, I mean, you just go for it and see what the hell happens. So this week, it's very simple. We got Dallas at Philly. The line is set at 43.5. We'll go ahead and take the over on that one, which is not completely untenable. I mean, all Dallas has to do is not play like garbage, and also their defense is trash. So they could almost give up, 30 of those points on their own, and then they only need to score 2 touchdowns on the other side of the ball. Philly is really interesting, and I think that's one of those teams that when you look at their record, you could easily think that they're a lot better than they have been. So this is, I think that part of the bet is relatively easy. Packers at Minnesota, under 55. That one's a little trickier. What you hope for there is for a relatively close game where, well, there's 2 things you can hope for in that game. One is one where the Packers go up relatively early and then get to take the air out of the ball by running, which they've actually shown a propensity to doing this season, and they've been a lot better, and they've got a good O-line, so they could pull that off. It's one way that this line could get to there. The other way would just be the Packers going up relatively early and Kirk Cousins having to throw his way back into the game, which is a recipe for disaster. I mean, they don't have Dalvin Cook. They do have Kirk Cousins, so it'd be relatively easy for this line to go under. So we're going to go ahead and take the, but it doesn't matter because it's an automatic pick. We don't give any thought. We just take the line as it is. But there's a pretty easy, I think there's a narrative for getting to this one. Boom. All right. So for the third leg, we're going to have to pick a game that looks good to us. This week, we're going back to that well that we talked about earlier with Vegas and Cleveland. Still like Vegas straight up, so we'll throw that in as our third game here. Already talked about this game. Las Vegas, not as far of a travel as it might seem. I mean, you think Las Vegas, West Coast, Cleveland, East Coast, but really, it's a lot closer than you think. I think it's probably only like a couple-hour flight. So once you take that into consideration, and also considering that Vegas is probably a little better than the record, and Cleveland, I'm telling you, 5-2 does not have me sold. Not at all. So we'll go ahead and take money line on this one. Like I said, anytime you can get the plus juice, we're getting Vegas plus 120. It really helps out that part of the parlay. So that's the 3 games we've got in the 2 easy parlay this week. Alright, next up we've got Deuces Wild. That's where we're going to take 2 wacky prop bets. Didn't get any info on anything too fun this week, so what we got is, first up, we've got Indy at Detroit. We're looking at Detroit to win the first half, but Indy to win the game. Detroit has totally played to this narrative all year, wherein they've gotten up on our opponent and then totally shit the bed. The only team they didn't do this with is against the Falcons, and we all know how the Falcons are. Their win on Thursday notwithstanding. But that was, honestly, more shocking was the part where they didn't give up the lead than that they kept it. So we're going to go ahead and take Detroit to win the first half, Indy to take the whole game. Indy's got a really good defense. Phillip Rivers is 9 million years old, but he's fun, and dadgummit, he's still a good quarterback. So we're going to go ahead and take Detroit in the first half, Indy to win the whole game. Not a lot to say there. One fun thing about this bet is it's getting plus 475. So if you go ahead and... I mean, it's really easy to talk yourself into this narrative while also taking a bet that's going to net you a nice little chunk of cash. Alright. Second part of our Deuces Wild is... shouldn't be anywhere near this game. But we're going to take the Jets to score the first touchdown in their game with Kansas City, and it's got to be a passing touchdown. There was money on... You could have put money on the Jets to score the first touchdown as a rushing touchdown, and that was plus 1450, which obviously that's a big number, but there's just... I could not sell myself on that. I was having enough time selling myself on them scoring the first touchdown either, but, I mean, look, if they get the ball first, which basically means if they lose the coin flip, they get the ball first, and then they get the ball. Again, this is already a scratch-off ticket, but they get the ball over the top. Maybe they score a pass and touchdown. Maybe something happens. You're gonna get a nice little payday here at plus 850. Wouldn't advise it, but it's certainly a possibility. So those are the two Deuces Wild picks this week. So we got 5, 4, 3, 2, and now 1. 1 for the road. This is pretty easy. We could have gone with New Orleans at Chicago for this one. I think that would have been a good team to pick for an easy road win. But I am going with Green Bay at Minnesota. I mean, I don't really give Minnesota an ice cube chance in hell here. I know Green Bay's... Oh shit, I did that backwards. Okay, I'm calling an audible. This game is... It's going to be New Orleans at... Well, that's why I'm doing this pilot episode, to work out these kinks, because I made a mistake. So, yeah. Fuck her. Anyway, okay. We'll say that this game should have actually been New Orleans at Chicago, because I'm pretty sure New Orleans is going to win that game. So, the 1 for the road is New Orleans win on the road in Chicago. Ah. Oh, jeez.